thank you to all of the community leaders and elected officials today for the opportunity to address this virtual convention of the DeKalb County Democrats. It's truly an honor, and we have a mighty obligation this fall to make history. Too many Georgia families are struggling to make ends meet. Our democracy is threatened by a president who believes himself above the law, who aspires to rule us like an authoritarian rather than to lead us in a democracy. The basic building blocks of human flourishing, healthcare, education, affordable housing, equal justice under the law, access to gainful employment that pays a fair wage. These things elude so many families, and it doesn't have to be this way. The problems that we face are not mysterious. In a state where nearly 2 million people lack health insurance, where rural hospitals and clinics are closing at an alarming rate, where we have a maternal mortality rate that's on par with Uzbekistan's, where Black women are as likely to die from complications from childbirth as women in Iraq, where half our counties have no OBGYN physician at all, where we've neglected to expand Medicaid, where we've neglected to invest in infrastructure and clean energy. 1 in 3 children in rural Georgia lives in poverty. The status quo is unacceptable, but it's not a mystery how we solve these problems. What it takes is leadership and political will. What it takes is political leadership that puts the public interest over self-interest, that listens to scientists and doctors and experts to address a public health crisis, that recognizes that the building blocks of opportunity and human flourishing, like education and healthcare and housing, have to be accessible equitably, without race and class bias, who recognize that reforming a criminal justice system and a system of policing that imposes brutality and prejudice and harm upon the citizens who are meant to be protected, who are already guaranteed equal protection under our Constitution, is a grave injustice. It's clear the work that we have to do. It's clear why we have to do it, what our moral purpose is, to build that beloved community that Congressman Lewis taught us about, to reconnect with the basic fact that we're all human beings, we're all sisters and brothers, we're all in this together. One of the most interesting things, and one of the most challenging and important things about this moment in American history is that we are at once grappling with a recognition, raising consciousness more honestly and candidly about race and class inequities, about the way people who look different, who come from different places, are treated differently in our society. The nature of oppression in our society. And that requires us to be honest about those disparities. And at the same time, we have to get back in touch with our common humanity. The only way that we're going to solve these problems, the only way that our country is going to reach its potential, the only way that the human species is going to reach its potential in this century is by reinvigorating that recognition that we are one people. That, as Congressman Lewis said, we live in one American house. We live in one world house. We rise or we fall together. And a crisis like this one challenges us to come together, to overcome a pandemic, to rebuild our economy, to deliver equal justice under the law, to pass a new Civil Rights Act and a new Voting Rights Act, so that racial discrimination and bias in election administration and policing and prosecution and incarceration are things of the past. To expand Medicaid, to expand the public health service, to invest in new clinics and hospitals, to serve underserved communities here in our state, and make sure that everyone has access to healthcare, to make historic investments in infrastructure and clean energy, to create jobs and job training opportunities, to make public college and HBCUs debt-free. Young people in America shouldn't have to take on debt to get an education. We should invest in the enlightenment and opportunity that higher education and job training can deliver for all of us. All of this is common sense, and this is an agenda that unites people across our state, urban, suburban, rural, Black, white. We can bring this state together to achieve these things, but first we have to win this race. We have to defeat Senator David Perdue, who was too busy lining his own pockets while he lied to us about the threat of COVID-19 to take care of the people that he represents. This is a man who sells meetings on a private island for $7,500 corporate PAC checks. This is a man who was snapping up shares in manufacturers of medical equipment and vaccines and dumping his casino stock while he told us the risk to our health was low and the impact on our economy would be little. This is a man who has put this president and himself and his political party above the people who pay his salary, who elect him to office, and who he's sworn to represent. David Perdue has failed us. He has no record to run on, but plague and recession and unemployment, lies and corruption. And Georgians from all walks of life are awake to David Perdue's corruption and his failure. And these next 50-something days, we have to all work our hearts out to get out the vote, to protect ballot access and voting rights. And I hope you join me in reminding folks that November 3rd is not election day. November 3rd is the last day of voting. October 12th, October 12th, October 12th, early voting opens in Georgia. And this has to be a bottom-up, community-wide, movement-style effort to generate record turnout to overcome voter suppression. 60 years since John Lewis had his skull fractured on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and still there are officials in our state and in the South who abuse their power to disenfranchise people. We have to overwhelm with turnout. And I know that we can do it together. And I know Dekalb Dems, y'all are the heart of this effort. And I look forward to working with you to win these races, to dig out from the rubble of what the Trump presidency, enabled by folks like David Perdue, have destroyed, and then to build a more beautiful, a more just, a more prosperous country together. Please join me in feeling hope and excitement about what's possible in the future once we turn the page on this dark chapter. Much love to everyone. I wish you good health. I'm grateful for your support. And thank you, Dekalb Dems, again for the opportunity.